This is Modern Mindset, the show where we discuss the psychology and emotions of finance and business. I'm your host, Adam Cox, and joining me today is Paul and Natasha from a heritage brand in the UK called Cherry Blossom. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And we're really looking at confidence in the workplace because I understand that you've carried out some new research which actually shows that there is a generational divide by how much pride we take in our appearance in our appearance in the workplace. Can you tell us a bit about that research?
Yes, of course. It was quite shocking to us, really. 60% of baby boomers prefer to have clean footwear, and it gives them a lot more confidence, and that's compared to 28% of millennials. Now, obviously, the difference here between Paul and I is that I am a millennial, whereas Paul is a baby boomer, yet we both are on the same page when it comes to clean shoes. I think that some interesting statistics as well was that in London and the surrounding areas, it was actually 45% compared to the rest of the UK of 34% of people that said that they felt more productive and confident in clean clothing and shoes.
It's one of those weird things, isn't it? Because I remember many years ago when I was kind of working from home, and I used to get dressed in a suit and kind of put shiny shoes on.
Yes.
It got me into that kind of work frame of mind. But it seems like these days people aren't so bothered about that. They can just kind of wear trainers and jeans if they want, and it doesn't matter. Do you think that's the case?
It's quite interesting because it is absolutely true that millennials don't take as much. They're quite happy to go to an interview with dirty shoes, but interestingly, nearly half of them actually said that they always feel much better when they're wearing clean attire and shoes are polished. So it's a bit ironic that they don't tend to bother, but they do feel better when they actually do bother. So we try and bridge that gap through our education and the training that we offer our retailers.
For me, the psychological side of that is I don't feel like I'm at work when I'm in casual clothes.
That's right.
I like to be able to have a different set of clothes for the evening and for the weekend, and then you've switched off from work. And I think if you wear the same clothes to work as you do in your spare time, I don't think you ever feel like you properly switch off.
No, that's right. And I think culturally, I mean, I'll go back to when I was a child, and my father always got it across to me how important it was to make a good first impression. And he said, Paul, always remember three things. Polish your shoes, make sure you've got a sharp crease in your trousers and a firm handshake. And those are kind of the rules that I sort of was brought up with. But I think that as time's moved on from the older generation to me, I think the message of grooming has got a bit weaker from our parenting onwards to the millennials. So, but what we do find is that when the youngsters actually appreciate the benefits of looking good and taking care of their gear, they feel a lot better and they're a lot more confident.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think it's one of these really powerful things that don't necessarily operate on a conscious level, but when people see people for the first time or they're kind of interacting with people, how they present themselves and how much pride they're kind of taking in their appearance at all levels. I mean, that could be personal hygiene, that could be clean shoes, that could be wearing a tie or cufflinks, things like that. But combined, there's actually a psychological principle called the halo effect, which is where you kind of add attributes onto people based on these kind of unconscious things. So you would assume that someone's more competent, more productive, more intelligent perhaps, by things that don't necessarily relate to that. So I think it's a really underestimated, kind of thing that people could be doing more of. Well, what would be your tips, do you think, to kind of encourage people to take a bit more pride in their appearance?
Well, I think it is about being totally aware that how you appear is an impression that people stay with you. When you go for that interview, people will look at, are your shoes clean? Are you well presented? If you've got a good haircut, are your clothing ironed and so on. So I think that if people want to get on and do well in their careers, they do have to take note. And as I said, when we go into the retail retail and into younger retail, fashion retailers, once you get the young people talking to young people about care, they do engage in, and some of our biggest growth areas are from the younger fashion footwear retailers. So we feel that it's more that the message is diluted since just before the war and through to my generation. There was strong messages, but it's just got diluted. But when people start to understand and bring back the old values, they do engage with it, and that's what I find really interesting.
I think for me as well is that you have to remember that, especially in an interview, that somebody is assessing you to think, okay, they will be representing my company, be it at head office, if you go out to meetings. So that initial impression, I think, is incredibly important. I think in the same way that people want the latest designer trainers and things like that, they should take the same pride with their workwear. But even at the weekend, if you've got some smart shoes, I do think it matters a lot more than some people give it credit. And I think for me as well, one of the problems of today is that we live in a very fast-paced, disposable society, and people don't necessarily think they have time to clean their shoes, when this is something we're trying to change. This is the message we're trying to get out there, is that actually it's very simple and very easy to take care of your shoes, and it doesn't take very much time at all. But if you protect your shoes before you go out the door, they'll last you a lot longer than if you just think, okay, I'm not going to bother. And actually it would save people a lot of money and a lot of time trying to find that perfect, comfortable pair of shoes that do give them the confidence.
And what's quite interesting with the youngsters is that their expressions, we call them sneakerheads. I mean, that's what Tash calls them. I'm a bit older than her, so I'm learning from her on this one. And there's another expression called box fresh. And we know that youngsters, once they understand how to clean them and that it is easy, that they do actually want box fresh footwear, as just part of their everyday care and making that first impression. So we feel that although culturally the older generations care more than the new, we know we can fix it. And through our websites, we have how-to videos to make it easy to show how people can look after their shoes. We know for a fact that videos are very well received by the younger generations. So we will just continue to get across our message, make it very easy to understand how you look after your footwear and the benefits of doing that.
It's one of these really strange things about how people kind of present themselves, because a lot of the time it doesn't really work on a rational level, but people still get it. I heard a phrase that, if the toilet doesn't work in an aeroplane, you start questioning, whether the engine
exactly. Yes.
And with personal appearance, it's kind of like, well, if you're sloppy about your shoes, or if you're sloppy about that kind of stain or that kind of iron in your shirt, are you also going to pay attention to other things? And obviously that makes a difference depending on what kind of industry you're in.
Totally agree.
What's interesting, my father, going back to my father, he used to say to me that not everyone will recognise your shiny shoes and your crease in your trousers, but the people who count will, and that's the same point that you're making. The ones that really can make a difference in your career or as you get on in life, the ones that take note are the ones that you want to impress, and I think that's another element to it.
To what extent do you think the changing landscape of the professional workplace, because there's lots of people that are in the gigging economy, they are their own boss, there's people, I'm in an office right now where it's dress down Friday. To what extent do you feel that the changing landscape, where the boundaries are a bit more blurred when they used to be, have made it a bit more complicated for people to just kind of know the rules?
I think today it's actually becoming less of the norm to dress smartly to work. I know, not in my current role, but in my role before, my previous role, I would always be dressed a lot smarter than other people that I worked with, because it was a very creative environment, and people were encouraged to express themselves. But then sometimes it clashes. If you if you then go into an important meeting and you have to dress up, people didn't feel confident doing that because they weren't used to it in their working life. And I think it's a shame, personally, that things are moving in that direction. I mean, I think it is important for, like you say, for artists, people like that to express themselves and to feel comfortable in their working environment, especially when people work very long hours. But I definitely think these blurred lines are, it's just a shame. I think we're losing something. We're losing tradition and the values of work through those blurred lines. And I don't know if you want to say something.
Yeah, no. Well, for me, sometimes fashion can help, actually. There is this casualisation, I've been told that's a real word, but casualisation that's happening out there. But fashion now, I mean, a lot of formal leathers are strong at the moment. Brogues are quite strong. And people are mixing what they're wearing. They might wear a jacket, jeans, but with a really smart pair of brogues. So sometimes fashion where formal leather needs polishing and looking, and you want to look sharp, that can also help. Although we're getting more casual, that the fashion trends can help that. But what's interesting outside of the leather brogue is that we know now that young people are wearing suede, nubuck and fabric sport type footwear. But we know from the sales that we see in our fashion stores, they are actually even looking at, they want to, even though they might look casual, they still want to look clean and well presented. And that is definitely a trend that's coming through from the numbers that we're seeing.
I quite like what you mentioned about Dress Down Friday. See, for me, that works because then people can express themselves on a Friday and they can feel more comfortable getting closer to the weekend. And it might encourage people to dress more smartly in the week. And for me, I think the psychological side of that is that, okay, the working week is, well, obviously it's Monday to Friday, but the Monday to Thursday you're smart, you're dressed right for work. And then Friday you can express yourself and let yourself go a little bit more.
I think as well, we look at sort of the seasons, and you would expect to have to protect your shoes in the wintertime, but in the summertime what we try and promote is that the footwear tends to get lighter in colour, nubucks and suedes, and we encourage people to protect those shoes with a spray protector, because if you're out having a barbecue or drinking, it's not rain that's going to be your problem, it's going to be the wine or the beer or the Coke that falls onto your feet. So these are messages that we try to get across, because that attacks the younger and the more casual element. So for us, it's accepting that people are dressing down, so we try and make sure that we get across the right products to make their shoes still look clean and well presented, even though they're dressing down.
Totally agree. It's if you nip for drinks after work and things like that, you can just
can
head
get
out.
A bit wild.
And I understand it's coming up to National Spring Cleaning Week.
Yes.
How important is it? Because I'm just thinking about my wardrobe, and I've probably got 4 or 5 pairs of shoes that I've not worn in a year that might look a bit tatty. Is it an opportunity to kind of almost like resurrect and kind of reutilize, almost like recycling in a way, because these things you're just not using? How big an opportunity is it for people to kind of make the most of things they've already got?
Well, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Paul. Definitely. I think that's the most important time, is that I think the way that spring cleaning has developed over the years is it's no longer a time to just clean out your house. It's a time to clean out your wardrobe, to get yourself in order, to get your affairs in order. And I think if you take the time to clean your shoes and wear that pair of shoes you've not worn for a while because you've cleaned them up and they look great again, it gives you a lot more confidence and it clears the mind. And we've actually done some research into this, and it's quite surprising just how much more confident people feel after they have done that spring clean of their shoes. And also, if you take the time to clear out your wardrobe and look at what you've got. Sorry, can we re-record that little bit? You just go.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
I mean, from the research that we've looked at, people actually have been proven to be more productive when they have a clean and tidy environment. So if you do have a wardrobe sort out, if you know, I mean, whether you're sort of doing a spring clean in the house, at your workspace, or even in the car, we know that people are a lot more productive. But if we've dug deeper into it, and if people actually have the same for their clothing and footwear that they've cleaned and prepared for the new season, they actually feel a lot more positive and a lot more confident. And the benefit of rejuvenating, say, footwear, when you've worn footwear for a while, they become very comfy. They almost become like slippers. And so if you can actually look after those shoes by applying polish to get the leather soft again, you can enjoy that comfort. Because when you buy new shoes, you do have to break them in a bit. But the benefit of looking after some of your older footwear is that you've got very comfortable footwear. And that's kind of why some people go to the shoe repairer. That helps to prolong their brogues or their leather-soled shoes, and it just means that they get more comfort and for a prolonged period of time.
I know that looking at our statistics, it's actually men who are more likely to look after their footwear than women. But I know personally, as much as I'd love to go out and buy lots of pairs of shoes every year, I do take that time to look after my shoes, because there's a specific pair of heels that I'm thinking of, but they're the ones that I can wear to work and out, and are always very comfortable and look great with every outfit. And I think that's the confidence you get, not just from a pair of shoes looking good, but that they feel comfortable, that they go with everything. And I think if people do take that time to look after their shoes and clean, care and protect them, that they will last them a lot longer. And that feeling of confidence that comes with it, I mean, you can't buy that. You can't buy that with a new pair of shoes. It is how they make you feel. And I think that comes from that whole the Cherry Blossoms ethos of clean, care, protect.
It's quite funny because I've got two daughters the same age as Tash. So, and because they know father was a shoe careaholic, if they had a pair of new suede boots, they just say, "Dad, can you protect my boots for me?" So this is the classic where they couldn't be bothered to do it themselves, so they got a baby boomer to sort them out. But they were understanding the benefits, because I would have been talking about shoe care quite a lot, as you can imagine, and they would sort of, if they bought new footwear, they would come to me first to sort them out. And there's a combination of they want to do it, but they want someone else to do it for them. So yeah, interesting.
Makes sense. We've talked a lot about how people come across in a workplace environment. We're living in a society now where people predominantly may use things like dating apps and kind of online as a way of kind of meeting people new. To what extent do you think these same principles of kind of confidence and pride and kind of first impressions also apply in the dating world?
Oh, I think that's very important. I think if I was on a date and somebody turned up and they hadn't taken care in their appearance, I would think that they weren't bothered about this date and it didn't mean anything to them. I think if people turn up and they haven't taken care in their appearance, that I would initially just think, why should I make the effort for you? And for me, that's just as important as going to a job interview. First impressions do count. And yes, I may be a millennial, but I do very much believe in that.
It's quite funny. In my day, yes, you had polished shoes and creased trousers, but you wouldn't admit to taking any care with your hair. And now, I look at the guys, young guys having their haircuts, and it's cool to worry about how your hair looks. So I think there's a lot of sort of ironies here, but I think people want to look good. It's not just about clothing, it's about hair, it's that whole grooming. So really, although we know that there is some reservation of caring for clothing and footwear, we know that there's a passion coming through that if we get the messages across well, then people will start to engage a lot more and actually start to think about the impressions that they're leaving. So there's hope for them yet.
I think as you were mentioning about dates and things as well, and just seeing friends or going into new kind of unusual environments, because dates obviously they can be a bit scary. I do think if you dress up and make an effort with your appearance, that does give you a lot more confidence in yourself, because you know that you look and feel the best that you possibly can. So then you'll come across in a lot better manner. So That's my opinion.
No, absolutely. And one of the sayings that I've heard from different people I respect over the years, is that you should dress as the person that you want to be. I've had some guests on the show that are very firm believers in this law of attraction, that you can kind of attract the kind of life and success that you want. To what extent do you feel that you can actually become more successful by dressing well?
I think I mean, for me, I was, as we all know, brought up where how you looked after yourself, and how your first impressions were really important through what you wear. So I think that it's like we touched on a bit earlier. For me, if I've got a sharp suit and tie, I feel ready for work. It makes me feel positive, and that, I think, comes across to people that can also further your career. So I think it is proven as well. It is about confidence and feeling ready for work, and having a positive outlook. So I think sharp clothes, taking care of your appearance, makes you prepared for work. It's almost like a pre-training to doing something that you want to develop and for the future. So I think it's all about getting that confidence to do well, and the people that can help your career will recognise that, and therefore that gives you a lot more power for the future to develop.
I think it's that go-getter attitude as well. I think if you feel you look good and you're smart, you can raise your head up high and you think, okay, yes, I'm going to go out and I'm going to give this day, this working week, everything that I've got, because I feel confident in my footwear and my appearance. So everything else will come with it. I do very much agree in that whole law of attraction is that you can go out and you can achieve anything if you set your mind to it. And I think the confidence that comes with feeling smart, looking good, taking care of your appearance will really help with that.
As a business, we actually say that, Cherry Blossom and Granger's, the two companies, we take care of your footwear, clothing and equipment, so that whether you're just going to the office or about to climb a mountain, we've got you covered, so you can just worry about the tasks ahead. And I think that's what it is. It's about, so you're almost preparing yourself, and if you know you look good and you feel confident, then you can just focus on what the challenges are, but you feel equipped to do that. So it's whether it is the office or the mountain, the confidence will make you perform at your best.
There's almost like a psychological ritual here that involves in kind of preparing for the day.
It is. It's like pre-training. It really is.
That's it. And a lot of people that have these kind of, let's say, ex-military backgrounds that have then become successful in business have said, it's things like, making the bed well, or, shining your shoes, taking pride in what you do can actually have a massive impact into this level of discipline. We've got two shoe experts. We don't normally have two shoe experts. Give us some practical advice and tips as to what we can actually do to start projecting that kind of successful first impression that we'd like to.
Right, so let's go right at the beginning. You've bought your new pair of shoes. The first thing, the caring starts before you even put a foot out the door. For example, if you've got leather shoes, apply polish straight away. And that means then that you can start to soften the leather so they become comfortable quicker, but also it puts a protective layer on the leather, so when you walk out that door, if you do get some rain, your shoes are in pretty good shape. And you can also apply protector to leather as well before you go out the door. But with suede, nubucks and leathers and fabrics, again, it's about the first protection. Don't wait to be outside to be caught out by the rain and stain your footwear. Spray those leather and suede and nubuck shoes with protector first, and that means you're good to go. And it's not just about the rain, as we said earlier. It protects you when you're having drinks. I mean, sometimes you might spill a drink on your shoes, but often it could be someone else. So it's all about protection from day one, and then keep that protection going right the way through the life of the shoes, because they will last longer and they will feel more comfortable, especially with leather, keeping it sort of supple using wax polishes.
And Natasha, give us the millennials out there some tips. They desperately need tips. Give them some tips for their shoes.
Don't be afraid to look after your shoes. It's a lot easier than you think. It doesn't take very long at all to polish a pair of shoes, and they will look completely different when you start it. It will transform them. And my favourite Cherry Blossom product is the Ultra Repel, and I couldn't live without that now, because a lot of my heels, I'm always in heels, are suede, a new book, and I always spray them, and it protects them against rain, as Paul was saying, against drink spillages, and you'll make those heels, those favourite comfortable heels, last a lot longer.
That's brilliant. We've got some really valuable advice there. It's been really, really useful. I'm certainly going to go through my 4 or 5 shoes that I've not seen for a while and spruce them up a bit. So, Paul, Natasha, thanks for joining me. And thanks for joining me on Modern Mindset in association with Share Radio. Join me again next week for more.